Hi guys. So this video is going to be a little bit about myself. I'm at work, but I have a lot of work to do, so I'm going to go ahead and record this video here while I'm working. Hopefully I don't make too much paper noise, but I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. I was a teenage mom. I had my first daughter when I was 16, and I was at the age when I thought I knew it all. I thought, well, I knew I didn't know it all, actually. I knew what I was doing was dangerous. I knew what I was doing was taking a chance at a better life, actually. So I did mention to you in another story, in another video, that I was raised by my grandmother. I did tell you that when I was 2 years old, my grandmother had to start raising me because my mother and my father were both on drugs. So when you, I don't know, put two and two together, your parents are on drugs and your grandmother has to take care of you, you're probably going to be low income, because that's the statistics, really. So that was in fact what happened. We were low income, and I was kind of raised in the ghetto, to be honest. So I was raised in the ghetto. Our family was low income. Most of my family was on welfare and food stamps, and there were no men in the home. There were a lot of aunts and cousins, but there weren't a lot of male role models in my family. So, although my grandmother was very nurturing, and so were my aunts, my grandmother wasn't very strict. There weren't a lot of rules, and I was kind of like the baby of the family because she had already raised 9 children. So she was kind of like on the older side. She wasn't educated, and she didn't enforce the importance of staying in school and how important it is to get an education, whether it be graduating from high school or a higher education. I was kind of just, we were all kind of just doing our best. She was doing her best with another child at an older age. She was a widow. She was on a fixed income, and yeah, so that was that. And so the way I was growing up was watching a lot of things that I was very naive, and I was very kind of like under my grandmother's wing, or you can say an introvert, but I was very observant. I saw a lot of things, and I was kind of like a nosy child, I guess you can say. So I saw a lot of things happening, and I knew a lot of those things weren't good. So somehow I kept those really bad memories in my head, and as I was growing up, I thought to myself, that's not going to be me. I don't want to live that life. I don't want to be a statistic. But in fact, I was. But I'll tell you a little bit about why I ventured that way. So, as I was growing up, I had a lot of older cousins, and I kind of hung out with them. And I pretended to be as old as them. So when I was only 13, I pretended to be 16. And when I was 16, I pretended to be 18. You get what I'm saying? And so when I was in high school, back in my time, we would pretend to go to school, but we didn't make it there. We would kind of go to like a house party or, just hang out wherever we can find somewhere to hang out. And at one of those gatherings, I met a boy. I didn't know he would eventually become my husband, but I met a guy. He was older than me. And I kept running into him. So maybe this was God's will, because I kept running into him. And we just became friends, and we started hanging out. So, but at this time, I'm only like 14, 15 maybe, and I think he was like 17, 18. I'm gonna guess that's when we were just friends. But when I finally decided that we were going to be boyfriend and girlfriend, I think I was 15 and he was 18. But the reason why I decided that I wanted him to be my boyfriend was because he was going to the Marines. And from the way I grew up, I knew that that was better than the men that were in my family. And being only 15, I mean, I wasn't, hadn't even graduated from high school yet. So, I mean, how much could I really know? But I knew that if he was going to the Marines and I got with this boy, and we married, then we would be a military family. And wow, that's income security and respect and patriotic. And so for me, I hit gold, kind of. So all along while we were friends, he wanted to date me, but I didn't want to date him. It wasn't until he came knocking on my door one day and said he got accepted to the Marines and he was leaving within a couple of months. So I made a decision. I was like, okay, you're leaving in a couple of months, then I need to make you my boyfriend and let's do this. So even though I was only 15, I kind of ran away from home. Not really. I just told a little white lie. I told my grandmother that I would be staying with a girlfriend over the summer. And she really just believed everything I said. Again, because I was a good kid. She didn't know I was ditching. She didn't know I wasn't going to class. She didn't even know my grades. She never asked for a report card. So, she believed me. She's like, okay, you're just going to go stay with some girlfriends over the summer. I mean, you're not in school. And, I guess for her, it's like less responsibility. I don't know. She was taking care of other people. Unfortunately, that's how we lived. So, long story short, I get with this guy. I move into his house. I lied about my age, so no one knew I was only 15, going on 16. I became his girlfriend, and I kind of just looked like an adult live-in girlfriend. Well, eventually I got pregnant, and when I go to have my daughter at the hospital, um, my daughter's dad had just gotten home from boot camp that Friday. I go to the hospital on Saturday to have my daughter, and it was a little bit early, so no one knew, and we didn't know that I was actually going to give birth within an hour of arriving to the hospital. Anywho, I have the baby. I'm 16. My mother-in-law took me to the hospital, and when they asked how old I was in front of her, I had to tell them I was 16, and she flipped out. I mean, at that point, there was nothing she could do, except she had to hurry to go back home to get my daughter's dad and bring him to the hospital. By the time he got to the hospital, I had already had my daughter. So anyway, yes, I was a teenage mom, and yes, I was a statistic. I grew up poor. I lived in the ghetto, and I was raised by my grandmother. And if you know, you know that that's basically what happens. But I wanted things to be different for me, even though I had my daughter when I was 16. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I wanted to buy my house. I knew I wanted to work a good job. I kept going to school even though I had my daughter. Thank God I had my mother-in-law to take care of my daughter for me while I went to school. And right away, I mean, I started working when I was 17 years old. And I worked and went to school, worked and went to school. I mean, my whole life. And then when I was 20, I decided I wanted another child. And at this point, though, my husband was working and I was working, and we lived on our own. And that was, our prerogative. We were raising my child together. So, and we were married. So at that point, we can do whatever we wanted. And we did. I got pregnant and had my second child at 20. But when you're that young and you have children, like, things are tough. Like, if you aren't making, I don't know, 100,000 a year at that time, like, we were broke all the time. But I mean, we worked, but we were broke all the time. And statistics prove that the way I grew up, drug addict parents, poor, living in the ghetto, statistics prove that I wouldn't make it either. And that I would continue the cycle. And my children even would continue the cycle. But it didn't happen. I was determined. I was determined that that would not happen to me. I kept working. I pushed my husband to work, so that we can make a good living, and so we can buy a home, and so we can be people that were respected, and we would have a lot of friends in our neighborhood. And but things don't always happen the way you plan. And there were some hiccups, and there were some there were some bumps along the way, and when you're supposed to turn right but you ended up turning left, uh, you're challenged. And we were definitely challenged in our relationship. But we were married for 22 years, and we eventually bought a home, and both my daughters were raised in a great community with lots and lots and lots of community helping hands. And I had an awesome daycare, and so we made it. Story is, we made it. And everyone knew us in the community. It was a small community where I raised my children. I decided to move to a small city and not raise my children in a large city. I did not want to raise my children in a big city, because if you look at one of my other stories, I talk about how I was bullied when I was in junior high, and I was raised in a big city, and I wasn't going to do that to my kids. I was not going to do that to my kids. So we had parent participation in school. Our principals were really nice and super involved, and my daughters went to great schools. And at some point in high school, they went to choice schools, which are kind of like charter schools. So they went to choice schools, and so my first daughter ended up going to a 4-year college and graduating, and my youngest daughter, she went to a trade school and graduated. So somehow, because of my determination, I ended the cycle. My children were the first in my family to graduate from a 4-year college. The first. So my oldest daughter, she is a family and marital therapist. And my youngest daughter, she's an RN with a bachelor's in science of nursing. And I believe she's going to start teaching nursing soon. And actually, my oldest daughter, where in the county where she used to live, she used to work with girls who were trafficked. She was kind of like a counselor for girls who were trafficked. She had a great position in the county that she used to live in. Well, in the state that she lives in now, she actually works for the suicide prevention hotline. So, and my youngest daughter is an RN. She's a nurse. And a lot of people pat me on the back, but I give all of my success and all of their success, I give it all to God, because I think that throughout my life I was guided. And God knew that people He was putting in my life would help in giving me a better life. And also, what I was thinking and how I was thinking. I think He knew that I was a child of His, and as long as I had Him in my heart and I believed in Him and you know, all of the humanly things that I would cry out for, he always told me that, no, you know, my daughter, I have you, and you will do great things with what I'm going to give you. It's not going to be easy, but you are not going to live the life that your parents lived, I guess I could say. And I definitely don't condone teenage pregnancy, but my story is that I made it out, and I worked really hard, and I was extremely determined, and I stayed married. I wasn't always happy. Things weren't always great. But I think working a full-time job and raising my children kind of kept me distracted. And I wasn't selfish. You know, maybe I wasn't always happy in my relationship or in my marriage, but I wasn't selfish. There were bigger things that I was thinking about, like what my obligations were. And my obligations were to take care of these two individuals that I decided to have, that I brought into this world. It was my responsibility to make sure that they were not going to struggle. They were not going to have to see things. Oh, maybe they see things, okay, but they weren't going to have these really bad things like drugs and um, hunger. Like, they were not going to live their lives as children, you know, hungry or wondering where their next meal was going to come from. They are self-sufficient. I don't have to do anything for them. And yes, right now I'm an empty nester. I'm 52 years old, and I will, in one of my other videos, I'm going to talk about being 52, being midlife, and being an empty nester, but that's going to be a different video. This video, I kind of wanted, I'm not doing any work actually, but this video anyways, I wanted to put on my channel because in my other videos I haven't really talked much about who I am, where I've come from, and even why I wanted to start a YouTube channel. And as I grow my YouTube channel, I will get into more about my life and, you know, more about my personal life, I guess. When I started my YouTube channel 8 weeks ago, I kind of wanted it to just be fun and, you know, cook with me, clean with me, shop with me. And I'm really trying to do that for you guys. But the truth is, this is who I am. And that's where I came from. But this is where I am today. So give me a comment. Let me know what you think about let me know what you think about my channel. Take a look at some of my other videos. I'm really new at this. I've only had my channel for 8 weeks. I'm not really good at editing yet. I'm trying. I say a lot, and I'm really, really trying to not use that but I'm going through menopause, and my brain thinks really slow. And maybe I've thought like that for a long time. Or, you know, I think when I was 20 and 30 and even my early 40s, I was probably quicker, but, you know, I'm trying to slow down in a lot of ways, like slow down when I drive, slow down when I'm at the grocery store, not be in a hurry, and Anyways, I think my brain is just trying to think a little bit slower. And so I use the word a lot, and so please just bear with me. I'm still learning how to be in front of the camera. A lot of my videos suck, but take a look at them, see what you think, comment on them, and I'm open to constructive criticism, so say whatever you want to say, but comment on this video. I want to know what you think. Like, please, and subscribe, and stay tuned for my next video, because in my next video I want to talk about why I started my channel, my age, 52, so I'm in the, transition part of my life, about to retire, and I'm an empty nester. And obviously when you retire, your income is going to change. And I want to talk about a nasty comment that I got recently. So stay tuned to my channel, and I'll see you soon.